how did you, first of all, get involved in voiceover, and then how did the Donald Duck job come about?
Oh, man. He picked the right question to hand the microphone forever. I'm going to take the full 30 minutes here. Voice acting. I've always been a voice actor, and I just didn't know it until later in life. I got into lots of trouble making, prank phone calls and making my parents' lives miserable with all of my shenanigans. And it wasn't until later in life that it clicked in my head, and it was like, wait, there's people behind those voices. Why not me? Why not me? And so that was the beginning of my journey. And then a year into moving to Los Angeles in 2014, Donald Duck crossed my path, and my agent said, "You do the voice, right?" And I went, and then the rest was history. So it's been quite an amazing journey. How about you?
Well, hold on. You just glossed over that because you said you do the voice, and you said, of course, Donald Duck is hard to do. So how did you know that you could do it? Because I'll respond because I do some sound-alike stuff. And then
You meow like a cat, like nobody else.
But how did you know? It's because it's not just being able to do that sound. You've got to be able to act. How did you know, and how did you develop the craft to where you were acting on a show?
Okay, now that's a really good question. So we got Mother's Day coming up. My mom taught me how to do the voice when I was 3 years old. And that was our love language. No matter what was going on, we would always quack each other up. Hold for applause. And so, she would tuck me in at night and she would say, and I would say, and so that was kind of our thing, and it was a people trick at parties and such. And then moving to Los Angeles, when that crossed my path, the audition, it went from being an impression that I had to master to make it actually Donald. Learning all the isms. What does he sound like when he does this? What does he sound like when he does that? And fortunately, I had over 80 plus years of source material to go back and watch to be like, as an example, what does it sound like when Donald laughs? Well, it's kind of a diaphragmatic, as opposed to a chuckle, which is more. So where do I pick those things up and how do I use them? Because it was very important for me when I got into the studio to get it right. When you step into a legacy character, as we call it, something that's passed down from generation to generation, fans have an expectation of what they want to hear. And so the pressure was on me to get it right, and I took it so seriously. But I would say probably about 3 months into recording the new series, I had a great voice director and team that were guiding me and helping me just make sure that the character was staying within, a certain frame. But after about 3 months, I kind of was able to step back and go, okay, I'm channeling Donald through me. He's talking through me. It became effortless. And it was at that moment, it was like, wow, okay, here we go. It was pretty cool.
It's cool. I tell people my voiceover background started with my parents and my best friend's parents. My parents are from Argentina. My mom from Rosario, my dad from Loma. My dad was British educated in Argentina, so no accent. My mom, Carlitos, you have to learn to speak Spanish. That accent, no me digas. And so I was hearing that all day, reference. And then around 6 years old, I meet a guy named Kevin Heaney. We love sports, we get along, and he takes me over to his house to meet his parents, John and Mary Heaney from Glasgow, Scotland. And then there was Uncle Danny that used to hang out there. Hey, Carlos, you and Kevin, you're playing soccer. And Auntie Liz, who was way up here, Carlos, you're looking bigger every day, I have to tell you. It was almost like the original Mrs. Doubtfire, right? And so I had those two influences, all those accents and sounds. My mom had a Russian friend named Linda Blasinko. Carlos, we are going to play tennis in the tennis courts. So all these dialects and sounds I grow up with. And then my first job is Rocco on Rocco's Modern Life. I was a stand-up comedian. I'm on the road. There was a little project called Rocco's Modern Life. I had a push-play recorder. I made a voice tape in a kitchen in Sacramento because I was doing stand-up comedy. I had an audition at a house near the Sutro Towers in San Francisco where I met 3 people, Nick Jennings, George Maestri, and Joe Murray, who created Rocco. Going through they didn't want Australian. They wanted Bruno Kirby, no hablo inglés. Yeah, I'm funny too. I do a character named Frenchie, if you ever watch Good Morning Vietnam. And they wanted Woody Allen, like, I'm a wallaby. And it wasn't working, and I picked up a vacuum manual, and Rocco's very jowly with a long nose, and I just kind of looked at him and went, when you're cleaning your unit, make sure it's not plugged into the wall. And they're like, that sounds pretty good. And we did it, they liked it, and then it became a series where I mirror your part of the craft in terms of legacy characters. I do a lot of all of the sound-alike stuff for Mike Wazowski, for Billy Crystal. And it was Brian Monroe, who said, you should audition for Mike Wazowski. I go, I don't do Billy Crystal. He goes, you're right in the same tenor range.
So I watched the movie Forget About Paris over and over and over again. And then I think when it probably happened to you, you're like, when I started doing Mike Wazowski, it was okay. But I think maybe after about 70 hours, I stopped thinking about me doing Billy Crystal. I started to see Mike Wazowski in his lip flap. And when it gets way up high, what are you talking about, Sully? You know something, Roz? One of these days.
So you learned the intricacies of how would Wazowski act here and how we would act there. So that's where I think we mirror each other in terms of you have to learn the craft so well. It's in many respects harder than an original character because you have to honor the source reference to make people believe that it hasn't changed, that it's seamless. And while I talked to Wally Wingert about that, I talked to Mick Wingert about that, Fred Tatasciore, there's a lot of us in voiceover that do sound-alike characters, and our job is to make you believe that it's the original. So, what else can I ask? What's currently happening? Is there something new that you want to talk about? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a fun game called Multiverses that came out. I play Gizmo, and of course his nemesis Stripe, Gizmo Crocker, and Uncle Shagworthy at your service. So lots of fun characters, and again, a lot of characters that have been played by others before, and excuse me, in the case of Gizmo, that was a real challenge. It was a fun challenge because Howie Mandel did the original voice, and I went back to the source material, Gremlins 1, Gremlins 2, and just listening for anything that I could bring to the table for that session. And it was difficult because Gizmo had never been in those situations. He'd never been in a fighting game before, so efforts and blah, killing, death and all these other things. And so I just had so much fun saying, okay, here's what I know. Let's make it up on the fly. And then that's canon, moving forward. If there's other video games, someday someone's going to go, oh, let me listen to Daniel Ross and see what he did for Gizmo and maybe take some inspiration. So yeah, Multiverses, Diablo Immortal, a lot of video games lately. Mickey Mouse Funhouse, we just had an episode released. I play Zoop Bloop. He's a lot of fun too.
That's great.
What about you? What's new? What's cooking?
We have a show coming out. I'm on Stephanie Miller every Wednesday. It's a fun radio show. We talk about the world. Let's just say that. I do Far Away Doc. I do Patricia. What was her name? That found the dress. Oh, Linda Tripp. Oh, lots of weird voices. And Liz Cheney. Liz Cheney is somehow. I love you, Daddy. Why don't you love me like you love the other daughter, Daddy? So lots of fun, weird voices on that show. But Rock, Paper, Scissors is coming out on Nickelodeon this July. And I play Scissors. And I talked to Scott Menville, who you know. Scissors is filled with a lot of angst. And I walked up to this voice actor named Scott Menville, who plays Robin on Teen Titans Go. And I go, there's a lot of you in Rock. He's like, come on, guys. We can beat the Rat Brothers. Oh, I am so sick and tired of losing. We can do this. Come on. And I said, that's totally you, Scott. So that's coming out. I'm on the Casa Grandes. I play Carlos, Casa Grande. A white-looking Carlos. There's a stretch. Sergio. Oh, boy. Who ate the menudo? And I've got one of my favorite characters on the show, Vito Filipponio. He was always mooching. Hey, can I borrow some of that for my burrito? I'll give it back. No, you won't. It's food. So that's what's going on. There's
The first time we met in person was the Loud House.
Yeah, I think so.
No, Bunsen is a Beast.
Bunsen is a Beast with the great Ben Giroux, who's on Nate. Big Nate. Yeah. So I'm working on that and a couple of other things coming up. News. I work on. Does anybody watch Camp Coral? Anybody? There's a bunch of them. I play Nobby. I play Narlene's brother Nobby. And a guy named Harvey. You guys, there's a bunch of aliens. But, so that was some of the new things. But does anybody, I won't walk around with a microphone because you can just shout it out. Does anybody have a question for Daniel or I?
Okay, I got one for you specifically. I remember you did a lot of voices for Camp Lazlo. How'd that come about? Like, did Joe Murray say, hey, Cartoon Network's paying me to make a new show, I need you and a couple other guys. Did you did a good job on the last one, or how'd that?
Yeah, Joe Murray created Rocko's Modern Life, and he loved his crew. Out of Rocko's Modern Life came Steve Hillenburg, SpongeBob, Jeff Swampy Marsh, and Dan Povenmire, Phineas and Ferb, and many other things, and a bunch of other directors. But Joe liked his crew, both the animation crew and the voiceover crew, and he said, I want to take Doug Lawrence, Tom Kinney, and Carlos Alazraqui over to this new show called Camp Lazlo.
If you notice, Rocco's like this, and Lazlo's pretty much in the same octave, with just a little bit of twist and a little bit more innocent. Hey, Scoutmaster Lumpus.
So that's how it happened. Joe Murray brought us over. So, any other questions?
How you take inspiration from other things that you've heard to put it together and make something new. I think that's really special.
That's what we do, right? And Spyro the Dragon's also in the same octave, right? And so she's right there. Rocco. Hi, this is Rocco. This is Spyro. This is Lazlo.
It's all right there. But what we know is that animators can also help differentiate those characters more than they actually are vocally. So it seems like while we are adding little elements to it to make it different, how it's animated really lends itself to being.
I always think it's amazing when we do our thing and then we see the finished product. And we see all the influence of the animators and all the other creatives who have been involved in the process. It takes on a life of its own. And so what we did in the booth sometimes is just expanded on exponentially, and it's amazing to see. It's amazing to see. Who else has a question? Yes.
Oh my gosh, Carlos.
Hi.
Anyway. By the way, anyway, you know, as a kid, I really enjoyed most of the voices you played, especially on Nickelodeon. And there's a voice, you know, that I've been willing to hear, and that is Mr. Crocker from Fairly OddParents.
Oh, do you, huh? Well, I know why you want to hear that voice, Timmy Turner. It's because there's Fairly OddParents! Oh, that kills me, Mother.
And that voice, because a lot of people that know voices will go, hey, that sounds a lot like Montgomery Burns. And I say, yes, because if I'm going to borrow, like with Scott Menville, I'm going to borrow from the best. So Mr. Crocker is definitely a mix of Montgomery Burns, who's obviously lower and slower, Smithers, and Richard Dreyfuss. There are aliens in my potatoes, and Gene Wilder. Set to give! And then when you put that all together, you get a sped up Burns with a little bit of extra Dreyfuss and fairies! And it's all woven together to make that voice, right? We weave it together and we make a voice. That's the art that we are afforded opportunities to be things, and animators do help make things wonderful for us. But yeah, so thank you. I'm glad that you like Mr. Crocker because he was inspired by Harry Shearer and Richard Dreyfuss and Gene Wilder for sure. And without those people, that voice doesn't exist. Any other questions?
I mean, I'm not going to complain. I think it's pretty cool. You know, it's a job like any other. We go to work every day. We take time out of our day to do different things. You know, in Hollywood, we got to go do lunch. We got to do some coffee, go get some avocado toast and all that stuff. And I can't imagine having a better job. I worked in retail for 15 years. And transitioning over to voice acting, it was like a dream come true because I had been doing it my entire life. So to do it professionally and to be paid to do that, that's very nice. But what I didn't realize getting into it was the ripples into the world. You know, you're working, you're in your bubble, you're doing your job, but then you come to these things and you meet people who are affected by the work, who take solace in the work, have moments of joy that you've given them, and I almost don't feel worthy of that sometimes. But that's part of the industry, and that's one side of it that I just love. The fact that I can put a little bit of joy into this world. What about you?
What I love about being part of it is I say I get to swim with dolphins, like Dan, like Tom Kenny, like Tara Strong, Great Delisle. I get to swim. I was a guy that played sports growing up. I really wasn't into drama other than watching Bob Newhart and stuff. So here's and you just kind of hinted on it. I didn't understand why people love, for example, Spyro the Dragon so much. It's a PS1 game, right? Watch out for Nasty Nork. And to me, that's just kind of a voice. And then one day I'm talking to Fred Tatasciore and D. Bradley Baker, really good voiceover guys, who are my friends, no big deal. We're at a place called Salami Studios. I'm lamenting because I stink at video games. And casually I say, I stink at video games. All I know how to play is Left 4 Dead 2. And Fred Tatasciore goes, you know I'm Boomer. And I'm like, what? And D. Bradley Baker's like, yeah, I'm the Joker and I'm the Spitter. And I'm like, oh my God, no, oh my God, no way. And they're like, hey, buddy, take it easy. I totally fanboyed out. And it was at that moment that I understood. I spent so many hours with that game. I know those characters. And I couldn't imagine that it was A, a human being, and B, my friends. I was blown away. So now when somebody comes up to our table, I get it. You spend so many hours with the characters that we do. So yeah, thank you for what you guys bring to us, because I totally look at Dee and Fred differently now. Because
I had a similar moment, if anybody knows E.G. Daly. Yeah. E.G.'s a good friend, and she's incredibly talented, and I got to know her as a person, and I knew what she had done. But then one night, I stayed up late, and I watched Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And I had not connected the dots that she had played Dottie. And as I went to see her for like a New Year's thing, and as I went to see her, I'm like, hi, E.G. I totally fangirled out. It was like, what? I was fine before, and she's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just, yeah, I just saw the thing, and I never connected the dots. So that was really cool. But yeah, these are our coworkers, and that's also a nice, cool thing about it. You get to meet amazing people who have incredibly wild, lived stories that you hear about, and we all connect with this one thing. Now, one thing in particular, you do on camera as well as voiceover. I did on camera a while ago, but one of the things that drew me to voice acting was voice actors. Yeah. As soon as I went to a convention, I realized these people are like me. Yeah. They're kind of quirky. They love doing crazy voices. They're just hearty, wonderful people who love what they do. And that was it for me. I just said, okay, I'm going to be a voice actor now. Incredible.
Yeah, I concur wholeheartedly.
What other questions do we have? Questions, yes, over here.
One for each of you. For you, Daniel, have you ever met Tony Anselmo?
No, haven't met in person. Maybe someday. Yeah. That's right. Well, when we go in to record, usually we're recording solo. You know, in the past, I think there were more group reads where everybody was in the same room together. But I would see my cast members in passing. You know, hey, how's it going? But no, haven't met them yet. And what about Carlos?
Yeah, for Carlos, you said you voiced Panchito. Does that include that Mexico boat ride at the Mexico Pavilion, which has like the 3 caballeros in it now?
I believe I did, because I don't think it's the original character. I want to look up his name. The original character was actually like a Ricky, a Desi Arnaz character. He had his music club in L.A. It was like a the Cotton Club, but for Latinos, you know, and all these people would come out.
He would like, hey, it's a pleasure to see everybody. Tonight we're going to play some music. So I think I did do, because they don't have the original recording of this guy, but if you notice, he's not far from Jose to Billy Crystal. How you doing? It's the same guy. You just switched the dialect, and there I go. Hey, Sully, guess what? I can do an impression. My name is Panchito.
So it's right there. But I have met Billy Crystal after a red carpet thing. It was when the Dream On or whatever it was called, the Dream. It was with Josh Gad. It was a comedy show, and I went. I really enjoyed it. He goes, thank you very much. Listen, I follow the Clippers, and I'm in a lot of pain. A lot of pain. So yes. How about any? Yes, sir. It's Rob. Oh my gosh, I can say yeah, because my oldest showed me Demon Slayer. I'm Inosuke. I want to fight you. I'm gonna kill you. I don't want to go. And then Zenitsu, we're gonna die. We're gonna die. Water breathing, first form. Right, I loved it, but the work that the anime characters. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. Tanjiro, calm down. I can't calm down. I have to control my breathing. It's so over-the-top dramatic, but yes, because there's such love for anime characters. Our friend Neil Kaplan is in Naruto, and Dante Bosco, well, with The Last Airbender is kind of anime, but yeah, anime is wonderful. I would love to do it. I don't know if I'll have the opportunity. Are you currently or you have ambitions to do that?
No, anime, it's one of those things I kind of haven't gotten into as of yet. I'm open to the opportunity. But I would say for me, in terms of what I want to do, my bucket list of things is anything that I watched when I was a kid. Saturday morning cartoons, eat with a big bowl of cereal. If I can be a part of that, to touch my childhood in that way, that for me is magic. So on my list, the Looney Tunes characters, none of the main guys, but bring back a character from like 50 or 60 years ago. That's what I want to do. Yeah, I'd love to get back to Transformers because that's huge for me. I'm a big Transformers fan. Yeah, anime, it's amazing how it's affected the culture and how people have gravitated towards it. It's magical. The stories are really incredible. And yeah, maybe someday.
I will say that if I get a job on My Hero Academia, my youngest daughter will clean her room the first time I ask her.
Who's your youngest?
Austin. My older daughter Riley, Alazraqui, plays Rock Talk on Star Trek Prodigy. If you're watching that show,
I just binged last week, and I was like, I know him and his daughter.
Yay! Well, we have another panel coming in. You can find me on Twitter at Carlos Alazraqui, on TikTok and on Instagram at Carlos Alazraqui if you want to follow all the voiceover stuff and what's coming up. And where can they find you?
Thank you. That's a good question. I'm actor Daniel Ross across social media. I've made it very easy for you. I have a website. Guess what it is? ActorDanielRoss.com. But please do follow. I'm on TikTok. Please come and say hello. And it's great to be here with everybody. Thank you for coming. Big round of applause. On to the next panel. Stay magically delicious.